Inter Miami is back, and so are we for our 100th episode. Yes, that's right, we celebrate our centennial show this week. Hello everybody, welcome back to Miami Total Futbol Radio, the number one and most listened to Inter Miami podcast, providing you all the latest news, updates, analysis, opinions, inside information, general punditry, and much more. We have been listened to in more than 50 countries and counting. I am one of your hosts. My name is Franco Panizo. I stuttered there, or I hesitated there, because it's not the usual trio that we have. We have all four co-hosts on this week's episode, because we all have to celebrate the momentous occasion that is 100 episodes. So first of all, a round of applause for us. Woo, yes, because listen, I started this podcast a couple years ago with Eric Krakauer. I mean, I planned for it to be a long-term thing, but you never know with podcasts. Maybe you don't get that far, but we have made it this far, and I'm very happy that we have, because I thoroughly enjoy talking Inter Miami with you guys. I enjoy the feedback from the listeners, so the fact that we've made it this far, amazing accomplishment and milestone. But of course, the other three co-hosts that are here in attendance, of course, are Steve El Primo Brenner, Jose Armando, aka Island Jose, and Andrea Yanez, who I don't have a nickname for yet, but we will come up with one very, very shortly. To start, ladies first, Andrea, how are you doing today? Welcome back, and thank you for celebrating our 100th episode here on, you thought I was going to forget, didn't you? Miami Total Futbol Radio. Andrea, how are you?
Hi, guys. To be here in this 100 episode, quite an accomplishment. So glad that you guys invited me. Let's get into it. Let's make this fun, and let's get into some fights. You know that I like it.
Two-footed slide tackle ready. Andrea's ready. She's ready, but maybe not for a red card. Hopefully not for a red card, although we will, of course, talk about that.
You know, right now, talking about the midfield and going in with both legs, I'm like a Thomas Gravesen, if you remember him, the Gravesiña. Yes. That's what I'm going to implement in this podcast.
La Gravesiña, I like it. Okay, well, now let's go to El Primo. Primo, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us and being available for the 100th episode of Miami Total Futbol Radio.
Of course, man. Thank you. And thank you for editing 100 episodes. You know that you put in a lot of work, so El Jefe comes to the party. Yeah, no, thank you, mate. Thank you. Congrats. Yeah, it's been a while, isn't it? I went to Cincinnati to cover the US men's national team, which was a cool place. If anyone goes to Cincinnati next time they play away at Cincinnati, definitely go. It's a great sports city for sure. And yeah, I like Andrea's fighting talk. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready. Sharpen your knives, because Andrea does come in hard.
As long as we get the truth. As long as we get the truth and honesty, that's all that matters, man.
Well, let's go to the other member, the other co-host, and that's Island Jose. Jose, how are you doing today?
What's going on, guys? How are you guys doing? I'm very happy to be here in the 100th episode. Well, I don't think there's going to be a lot of fighting between El Primo, Andrea, and Jose. I think the fighting is going to be all against Mr. Panizo, just because you have some very interesting takes coming up in this podcast, and I already know about it. I have the rundown in front of me, and let me tell you, you're going to be in trouble, Franco. You're going to be in trouble. 3 against 1, I'm telling you.
Well, it's a good thing then that to celebrate this momentous occasion, we all have a drink. We're going to celebrate while we do the podcast for the first time ever. I don't know about Steve, but for the first time ever, I'm going to have a drink while we do this podcast. And in front of me, and this is not a sponsorship.
I will have a tipple.
Okay. I don't know what. Oh, is that a beer? I don't know what that is.
Just like a little drink. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have Pilsen from Peru, del Callao, and this is not a sponsorship announcement. This is just me having a beer, Peruvian beer, while we do this episode.
Remember, if you want to sponsor, call Franco if you want to be a sponsor of this podcast.
Yeah, if you are a Peruvian beer person and you want to get in touch and sponsor us, then that would be awesome. Thank you.
Andrea, what are you drinking during this episode?
I'm having an Stella Artois.
Nice, very nice. Belgian beer.
That's right.
Okay.
A Belgian beer, yes.
Okay, and Jose does not drink, so Jose is not having anything. Is that correct?
That
Jose
is
is
correct.
having a bananita tropical from Honduras. That is a drink,
I
but
wish.
it doesn't have alcohol.
I wish, but no.
For you listeners out there, Island Jose does not drink. He's
I do
refraining from
not.
having a beverage. I tried to convince him, but he just won't do it. By the way, I was in Qatar for a part of the last couple of weeks since we last had a pod. I will share some of my Qatar thoughts in the final portion of this podcast. If you want to hear about what the World Cup might be like, in case you're going, in case you're contemplating going, or if you're just curious to hear about what Qatar is like, I will give you my thoughts in the final segment. But before we get to that, we are here, of course, to talk about Inter Miami, which returned to action this past weekend on the road against Atlanta United. And, well, things did not go very well for the South Florida side. We will dive into that game. We will dive into the controversial sending off of Jean Mota. And as a special interview to mark the 100th episode, we will have DeAndre Yedlin on during the second segment of the show. So we have a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. There's 4 of us, so there's a lot more opinions that will probably be coming out of our mouths. So guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it. Okay guys, so Inter Miami came back from a 3-week break. Visited Atlanta United on Sunday, Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day to all you dads out there, by the way. And, well, as far as the game goes, Inter Miami was unable to give its fans a Father's Day treat because the team lost 2-0 to Atlanta United. Goals from Luis Araujo in the 4th minute and Joseph Martinez in the 61st. Of course, one of the biggest talking points was the red card to Jean Mota in the 29th minute. A second yellow, but a red card that leaves Inter Miami with 10 men for the better part of an hour, and, well, they weren't able to overcome that. This was the lineup that Inter Miami went with. Drake Callender in goal. Your back line was DeAndre Yedlin, Damian Lowe, Ame Mabika, Christopher McVeigh. Your midfield triangle, Jean Mota as the 6, Robert Taylor a little bit ahead of him on the right, and Bryce Duke a little bit ahead of Jean Mota on the left. And then your front 3 from right to left, Indiana Vasilev, Leonardo Campana, Ariel Lassiter. Regular captain Gregory was dealing with some visa issues, so he was unavailable for this match. Nick Marsman also not back yet from his injury, so Clement Diop was the goalkeeper that was on the bench. Guys, quickly, well, starting with Jose, your overall thoughts on this game.
Well, listen, I think it's pretty clear that the break did not help Inter Miami. I mean, this is not a good team. And when you start to make some progress, then you get a 3-week break, and, it's a step back. And it was pretty clear. It was a step back. The performance was not good. And I'm talking about the first 29 minutes. Because after the red card happened, it was a struggle for Inter Miami. And even after the goal, I think, they were very decisive in the fact that they wanted to tie the game, but they were not very well organized. You saw McVeigh pushing forward, which it's okay, but it's not ideal for Inter Miami because he's not a true left back. And when McVeigh goes all the way on the left flank, that means he's leaving a lot of room behind. Same thing with Damian Lowe. I didn't like the way they were trying to attack Atlanta United early on. After the red card for Mota, everything changed, and the game basically ended at the 29th minute. They were already down a goal. So I think it's a combination of 2 things for Inter Miami against Atlanta. I think it's about the red card and, about taking a step back during the long break.
We will dive into the red card in more detail in just a little bit. But, Primo, what did you think of this latest defeat? Obviously, Inter Miami had been on a bit of a roll before the break, but now they're back to losing ways with this 2-0 defeat to Atlanta United.
Yeah, just a bad start, wasn't it? I think when you let a goal in so early on and just you're always on the back foot, it's going to be difficult in Atlanta, big stadium, big crowd, home crowd. Yeah, it just didn't turn up, and then the sending off killed the game for them, really. And they were in it, and they did have some openings sort of late on, didn't they? And they showed a few little sparks, but just not enough. It was pretty feisty. But yeah, just a sort of bad day at the office, I think.
Andrea.
I think Gregory was missing a lot. They were missing him a lot, and after the sending off, the game practically ended there. There was nothing that Inter Miami could do. They are not a team that comes back after losing many times. So I think they're having the same problems that they were having before. 3 weeks without playing. Of course, some of these players have had action with their national teams, but the others didn't. So I guess it takes a toll on you. Three weeks without playing, it takes a toll on you, and you could see it in some of the players. Of course, I don't know why. We can talk if we can talk about the lineup, but I don't know why. I know Phil is missing players. I know, of course, we said Mo Adams left, but he's missing players in the midfield. But he again played Robert Taylor in the midfield, and we have seen that the best from Taylor this year comes from him playing through the wings. So I think that was a mistake. I don't know why he include Indiana Vassilev in the starting 11, to tell you the truth. I didn't like that change.
I did think.
I guess he didn't have enough players. If Phil doesn't feel comfortable yet, giving them the opportunity. Now he doesn't have Mo Adams, but he didn't have Gregory, and he didn't take a risk. That's why I didn't like about the lineup, because I don't think Indiana Vassilev is a player that in this moment needs to be starting for the team.
I think he did take a risk, because I think he goes with a midfield that I asked him about it after the game, and he said he was looking for a midfield that could dominate that part of the field. And clearly, when you have three players of the characteristics of Jean Mota, Robert Taylor, and Bryce Duke, they're either more eights, more mixed type of central midfielders, or they're more attack-minded central midfielders. They didn't really have a pure destroyer, a like-for-like change for Gregory. So I think he did take a risk. I just don't think it worked. And look, for me, it's a criticism I have from this game, because if Gregory was available, I think it's safe to assume that he would be starting. And if Gregory's starting, because of what he can give you from a defensive posture, from his ability to break things up, his ability to destroy, I think you need someone that can help fill that role if you're going to come out and play in this lineup. So I thought Victor Ulloa is the closest thing you have to that, and I thought Victor Ulloa should have started. I don't think that midfield three worked, and I don't think that they had enough of a balance to give Inter Miami the type of performance that they needed. And I think that's one of the reasons why those first 30 minutes, including the rust that you guys have mentioned, there was rust there from a team that hasn't played in 3 weeks. But why does Inter Miami have rust, whereas Atlanta United also hasn't played for 3 weeks? Why did Atlanta United not have that rust? Are we going to say just because they're at home?
Horribly, Franco. They play horribly. They didn't even deserve to win 2-0. They play horribly.
I disagree with that. I don't think they played horribly. They got an early goal. They attacked. They forced Rick Callender into a few saves.
And after that, what did they do?
They forced Rick Callender into a few saves.
2 in the first half?
There was a couple in the first half and a couple in the second half. I don't want to say they were an incredibly amazing performance from the Five Stripes as they're known, but I thought that they looked the better team, and I don't think that they showed as much rust as Inter Miami.
They looked better than Inter Miami. That I agree. But
even before the red card, they looked better than Inter Miami. I thought that with their ability to press, I thought they brought more intensity. And again, this is before the red card, because once the red card happens, the analysis changes completely. But before the red card, I saw an Atlanta United team that looked hungrier, that was more intense, that was winning 50-50s, that was winning second balls, while Inter Miami tried to hit in a very direct manner, in a very counter-attacking way, and it just didn't pay off. They would constantly look to hit in balls behind, and those were easily intercepted, and Atlanta United kept getting their rhythm and finding their feet by picking up the ball. That's what I saw for the first 29 minutes before Jean Mota's sending off. Now,
well, there's two things as well, Franco, here that, first off, Mota was struggling during the first 29 minutes.
Absolutely.
During his entire time. He was struggling, and I think, part of it was the field. I don't think he looked comfortable with it. There's an early play that, he tries to cut in a ball, and the ball bounces in front of him, and he just misses the ball completely. So he looked uncomfortable to me playing there under those conditions.
Why do you think he played? But why do you think he looked uncomfortable? Because he's played that sixth position before, that deep lying. We say six because that's the position he's occupying, but he's not a defensive midfielder, right? He's playing more of a deep lying playmaker. He's a deep lying playmaker in this system. Someone that's there in front of the back line, but is there more to help create than destroy. So
because he didn't have any help. He didn't have any help, and he knew that. He didn't have any help.
Defensive help.
Yeah, defensively he didn't have any help. And
Maybe
of course
this was a game for Phil to try and play with 5 defenders. Because if he didn't have Gregory, he didn't have Mo Adams, and he didn't have anyone that he trusted.
But I want to hear
Jose.
I want to hear Jose finish his thought there. Jose, so you think because he didn't have a Gregory type player in that midfield that Jean Mota felt uncomfortable?
Right. Yeah, because Robert Taylor cannot help at all. He tries, but he's playing out of position. So everything that Robert Taylor gives you right now, it's out of his desire to perform at a high level. He has an individual ability that helps, but it all comes out of an effort from the player and a desire, not because that's exactly the way where the place where he wants to be in the lineup. But that's the only way of him getting minutes right now. So he's not going to help defensively, and you cannot ask from him a lot. My thing with Robert Taylor is that he needs to help on offense. He needs to do a lot more. But aside from that, I think Mota didn't have any help, and that's why he was struggling with the field, and he didn't have any help, so he was exposed. And I don't think that's the reason why he gets the second yellow, but it might play a factor into it. An early yellow as well. So for me, I think Mota, it was an overall good experience for him on Sunday.
Hindsight is 20/20, but do you agree with me that you think there should have been a more like-for-like change in that midfield and Victor Ulloa should have started?
Yes, 100%. Yes, 100%. I would have started Ulloa, and I would have played Taylor on the wing on the right side and leave Indiana on the bench. Second half substitution, I think Indiana can give you something there, but having him start, especially when you're exposed in the middle and I don't know why. I really don't understand why Robert Taylor is not good enough on the coaching staff to just put him on the wing, on the right side or on the left, because Ari Lester can play on the right as well and then cut inside.
I feel like the coaching staff really likes Indiana Vassilev. Which I'm not 100% sold on him.
And of course, you bring him in, during this, you're not going to bring a player in and you're going to bench him for weeks. You give him at least. And I don't know if that's what they're doing, but I believe Robert Taylor can perform at a higher level on the wing, on the right side than Indiana. That's the way I see it.
Right, I would agree with you. I think that's where Phil Neville made a mistake in this one. I think his game plan to start. Listen, if Gregory's there, he's starting. Gregory's starting, right? I don't think anyone here disagrees with that. And if you don't have Gregory, then I think a like-for-like change makes the most sense. Trying to get creative and trying to boss that midfield with three more attack-minded midfielders, central midfielders, makes sense. It can make sense on paper or in theory, but who's the ball winner in that middle of the park? Who's going to help you close the gaps? Who's going to help you track runners? Who's going to help you get some tackles in there, some clean tackles in there, and help you with the recovery of the ball, with the recuperation? I think that they made a mistake there. But I think Steve is trying to say something.
No, I wasn't. No, not necessarily on that point, man. No, not really. But yeah, just Gregory and Mota had been like a good partnership. So when you break it up, inevitably you're going to get one guy. It's going to be unbalanced, isn't it? And yeah, that was just the story of the game.
So do you think Victor Ulloa should have started?
Well, I guess so. In retrospect, you look at it, I guess maybe to shore it up a bit more. But maybe you thought Robert Taylor could do that job. He's a pretty versatile player, isn't he? But he just, he couldn't do it. But maybe that was the chance for Robert Taylor to try and get that sort of role. But it didn't really work for him. But that's not to say that he wouldn't be able to do it in the future. I don't know. He's, like I say, I think they see him as quite a versatile kind of player,
I don't think he has enough muscle to really help that midfield in that way. But let's move on.
He's a good player, though, isn't he?
He's good.
Player.
Absolutely.
He's quick, he's powerful, he's good on the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should be a winger. I think we all agree he should be a winger.
Is when he's in the wing.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think he should be on the wing. I think he should be a starting winger on this team, or he should be getting another look as a starting winger on this team. Now, does that push Indiana Vassilev out? Okay, I'm fine with that because Indiana Vassilev, yes, he gives you a lot of effort, a lot of hustle, a lot of commitment to the overall cause, but that final bit, that quality that you need in the final third, I don't see enough from Indiana Vassilev there. But Robert Taylor did have a bad game.
What I was saying at the beginning is you could, with Robert Taylor, you can have, and like Jose said, you can have them change position with Ariel, and you can have that. We saw it in the game that Phil put him in that position. We saw how versatile Miami was. So I think Phil is missing that. I think, of course, if you get a player on loan from the Premier League, you're going to try to play him. So I understand that point. But like I said at the beginning, I don't think Indiana is ready to be a starter in this team. Maybe he can come as a sub and be a good sub. But as things are, I don't think he should be starting before Robert Taylor in that wing.
Yeah, Robert Taylor had a pretty poor game overall, though. He had the turnover that leads to that 4th-minute goal. Just played a bad back pass. I don't know if I don't think he picked up his head up and to see where Damian Lowe was. He kind of just played it aimlessly, and it got picked up by Joseph Martinez, who feeds Luis Araujo, and a good clinical one-timed effort from outside the penalty area that finds the bottom left corner past Drake Callender. That's the 1-0 for Atlanta United and the early hole for Inter Miami. Robert Taylor also misses on a great look to make it 1-1 later on in the first half before the ejection. Ariel Lassiter, who for me, and Jose, I know you will enjoy hearing this, who is the most dangerous Inter Miami attacker on the field. He takes a shot from the left side. It's parried into the path of Robert Taylor in front of an empty net. And he wasn't like right there. It wasn't like he was 2 yards away. He was a bit further away, off center to the right, but you have to put those away, especially on the road. I think even Phil Neville kind of alluded to it in his post-game press conference, saying, the chances you do get, you have to put away. Robert Taylor does not. He skies it over the crossbar. Inter Miami wastes that opportunity to pull level. Not long later, Jean Mota is sent off. And that's where we're going to dive into now, because I want to hear your opinions as to the ejection. I think, and I know Jose is already going to start accusing me of saying this or that in our WhatsApp group, but I will make this very clear. I think that the foul, the second foul, the second yellow that leads to his ejection, I think it is a soft foul, and I think it's a tough and harsh call to give him a second yellow on that foul, because it's a game-changing decision there. Now Inter Miami's playing with 10 men, so I think it's a bad call. At the same time, Jean Mota put himself in a bad position there. Because if you are on a yellow card and you know you're one bad foul or one potentially Tiki Taka foul away from being sent off, and I know he made only subtle or slight contact, I still think he should have done better there. He obviously gets his hand on the torso or in the upper body of the dribbler, which was Marcelo Moreno.
It's not a foul, though, is it?
I agree it's not a foul. I agree it's not a foul. But he puts himself in a bad position by putting his hand on the upper body, because then Marcelo Moreno felt the contact and he fell.
It's not a foul.
I'm not arguing with you that it's a foul. I'm not arguing with you it's a foul. But I'm saying Jean Mota put himself in a bad position.
You're bringing up in a scenario in which it seems like there was a way of the referee getting away with a bad call, because he exposed himself to a situation in which the referee can actually
absolutely on an Atlanta United counterattack. If you put your hand on the upper body of the dribbler and then the dribbler sells it and throws himself to the ground, yes, that player might be able to dupe the ref into a bad call, which is what happened here. And the referee bought it and he sends off Jean Mota. Gene Mota should have done better.
It's-
I don't think. I think the
It's an
referee.
error. No, it's an error, Franco. It's an error from the referee. Phil is right.
I'm not disagreeing with you there. I'm not disagreeing with
He
you.
knew, the referee knew that wasn't a foul for his second yellow. He knew he already had a yellow card. No other ref anywhere in the world will throw you for that. It wasn't not even we cannot say like it was a soft yellow, because I don't even think it was a soft yellow. We have seen this type of calls. Not even, you call a foul and that's it. You don't get a card.
It was a
And this time it was not even a foul.
Exactly.
It's a nothing foul, and he'd already booked him before anyway. And so you just, you do show a bit of leniency. There's no,
Exactly.
that's not a red card.
Exactly.
To give him two bookings like that.
Exactly.
Was just poor from the referee.
I agree with that. The referee should have known that it's the 29th minute. He already has a yellow card. You cannot give him his second yellow card.
Not for that.
Yeah.
No.
I agree.
That is
I agree
shameful.
with. I agree
And
with
I
you
agree
guys.
with Phil that he had to go and talk to the referee. Listen to me, Franco. Inter Miami is not a good team. They need to get points however they can. So Phil needs to go to the referee and speak to him, because that was a bad call.
Listen, I tweeted
And
this
I
in the
support
moment.
Phil 100% with.
Well, so we'll dive into Phil Neville's post-game comments in a bit, but I tweeted this in the game. It's a bad call. It's a terrible call to throw someone out for that, because it's a game-changing decision. That said, Gene Mota put himself in that position by putting his hand on the upper body of Marcelo Moreno. If he doesn't do that, Marcelo Moreno doesn't throw himself on the ground or doesn't fall to the ground, and there's no second yellow. But because he put his hand on the upper body, regardless of, I don't think it's a foul. I'm with you guys. I don't think it's a foul, especially not a second yellow foul. But because he does that, he puts himself at risk of this potential type of refereeing mistake. And that's what happened, and Inter Miami was like... Gene Mota doesn't even argue the call, by the way. Gene Mota just walks off the field. So...
But
Right,
he
he's
must
angry,
have been
isn't
mad. This is a contact sport, man. Of course, if you say you don't put their hands, it's a contact sport. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't have been a yellow
you
card.
leave yourself exposed for potential type
Unless
of call.
unless it becomes a non-contact sport once you get a yellow card. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the case. I don't know if that's the world that you're living in right now, Franco. But no, I mean, listen, it's not a foul. It's not a foul, and I think it's very simple. It's not a foul. That's the moment that changes the game.
That's
I
not the
think
moment.
Mota
No. See, let's dive into that, because that's not the moment that changes the game.
It is,
no,
Franco.
Andrea,
It
no.
actually is.
See, and I thought it was disingenuous post game from Phil Neville to he tried to not talk about the decision, but then he did talk about the decision in a muted way.
No.
In a muted way.
No.
The Inter Miami was
About
already
it.
down 1-0, and they were not playing great before the sending off. The sending off doomed them to defeat.
It changes the game totally, doesn't it? So
It changes the game, but they weren't playing well in those first 30 minutes before that.
no.
So let's focus on
But
why
how-
they weren't playing well, as opposed to saying, well, the red card is what doomed them to defeat. They were already losing. And they weren't playing
but
great.
they could have tied. 11 players, they could tie, because, like I told you, Atlanta wasn't that great.
And they could also go down 2-0 with 11 players. So
Inter
But
Miami,
they
they never
didn't.
get off to good starts. They never get off to good starts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going a man down, it's pretty obvious. That's the key of the game right there. I mean, we never know. I mean, you're absolutely right. Atlanta could have scored 2 or 3 goals on them in the second half with 11 players. But the same thing we can say about Inter Miami. Maybe they turn things around. The matter of the fact is that Mota got sent off. He got the red card, and that's what it is. I mean, we can go through different scenarios of what could have happened, but the one thing that actually happened is the red card. And that's why they end up, they are handicapped throughout the game, and that's a key moment in the game. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Listen, Inter Miami is not a good team. Atlanta's not a great team as well. They're pretty even. So anything could happen. Anytime they meet up, anything can happen. I mean, there's not a huge difference between both teams. And I do believe that's the moment that changes the game. And I do agree 100% with Phil in the press conference comments. I think this is the moment where and I understand the reason why he doesn't go through the red card the way he wanted, and he didn't do it in the halftime interview as well. And that's why I'm
He
gonna
doesn't
tell
want.
you
He doesn't
why.
want to get
Because in
fined.
this,
He doesn't want to get fined. Absolutely.
and that's the reality of MLS, and that's why we get this type of refereeing, because nobody's allowed to complain about things here. And so
Yeah.
if you're not allowed to talk about the referees, and that's the way you get better. You need to get exposed when you make a bad call. You need to get exposed by the people that know, by the people that are exactly in the same scenario that you are as a referee. People that are on the field, not us, because I mean we can talk about it because we have replays and we can see the play all over again. But the way people saw it on the field, people should be allowed to talk about that after the game. And Phil is not able to voice the frustration. Why? Because he's afraid of the repercussions that he's going to get from the league. And that shouldn't be acceptable. That shouldn't be acceptable. Of course, if you insult the referee and you go over the line, then yeah, then you should be disciplined. But if you want to voice your opinion on what you saw on the field, I think you have the right to do it.
I'm going to break a rule that I have for myself here, because through 100 episodes, I have never, ever cursed on this podcast. But I will break that rule now. It's a personal rule I have, but I'm breaking it. It's a bullshit call. It's a bullshit call. But I can see where the ref, from his eyes, thinks it's a foul. From where he was standing, where he's like, okay, well, he just stopped the counterattack. From his eyes, from his vantage point, I could see where a referee makes that decision. Do I agree with the decision? No. But I can see where a referee makes that decision. And I think that's where Gene Mota, as an experienced player, one of the most experienced players on this team, should have known better. It's needless. It's needless to make contact that far from goal. This is in Atlanta United's half, as they're trying to spring forward on a counterattack. Needless for him to touch Marcelo Moreno there. Needless. Unnecessary. Unnecessary. Especially when you're on a yellow
Did he
card.
even touch him, though? Did he touch him?
He does touch him. He puts his hand on his torso, and Marcelo Moreno goes down. Again, bullshit call.
He's marking him,
bullshit
Franco.
call. But
He's
if you're on a
marking him.
yellow, Andrea, if you're on a yellow, and the
No,
other team's
you need to mark.
if you're on a
He was
yellow,
trying to
and
stop
the
the
other
counter.
team, if you're on a yellow, and the other team is counterattacking you, and you bring the player down, and you stop the promising attack, or the promising looking attack, then the referee can absolutely make that call. Again, I think it's a bullshit call.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think,
not
but
even-
I
it's
see
not-
where
it
the
was
referee can make
not-
that decision.
It was not even a clear opportunity on goal, as you are saying. It was not even that. The referee messed up, and the thing is that here, as Jose was saying, and we were commenting also, Steve, here you cannot say that. And the thing is that it needs to be said, because this referee should be banned one game because of his mistake. But he's going to get another game the next weekend, and that's the problem.
Well, that's
And
a different
that's why-
talking point. That's whether the referees in MLS. That's a different talking point, Andrea.
That's why I understand Phil, because his team is not a good team, and I repeat, he needs to. When he sees this kind of stuff, he needs to speak on it. So that is why I support him this time with the comments, because it was not a second yellow. It was not a sending off. I 100% agree with all that Steve and Jose said. It was not.
I would
And
listen.
it changed the game.
The game was already in Atlanta United's favor, and Atlanta United was the better team. So, did it change the game? Did it dust off and seal off Inter Miami's chances of winning? Yes, but Inter Miami wasn't showing a whole lot before then. And I think it's disingenuous to just say, "Oh well, the red card changed the game," when the 30 minutes before then, Inter Miami showed very little to nothing with the ball. But let's continue on with Phil Neville's post-game comments, because you guys just touched on an important point. He probably withheld his true feelings towards it, because he does say, "I am not surprised," in one of his initial remarks about the foul, or about the sending off. Probably because he has been reprimanded in the past for being very critical of referees during a post-game press conference. Now, again, I'm with him. I don't think that should have been a second yellow. I'm with you guys. I don't think it should have been a second yellow. But I think there needed to be a little bit more self-criticism, a little bit more reflection on those first 30 minutes as to why they were in that situation where they're down 1-0 and they're not looking very good and they're not playing very well, and why there was rust while Atlanta United didn't show anywhere near as much rust, if any at all. So I think there needs to be a little bit more reflection there from why the game plan did not work, as opposed to just saying, well, we lost because of this red card. In a game we were already losing in, by the way. But
No, I mean, it's obvious. To me, it's obvious. I mean, it's very clear. They had no chance. They had no chance at winning that game. And let me tell you something. If there's a positive out of this game for Inter Miami, it's the way they tried. I'm not going to say they gave up, because they didn't. They didn't. They kept on trying. And Campana had a chance or two in the second half. And maybe if they score a goal, they put more pressure on Atlanta, then maybe they have a chance. But what really happened, what we saw on the field, was all conditioned by the red card. And Philly's absolutely right in the red card. And listen, I'll be the first one to tell you. If it looked like an excuse more than a situation that actually happened, I'll be the first one to tell you that Phil should have done better and that team should have performed at a higher level. But I think they did everything they could have done. But the red card was just too much for them. And that's that's a reality. That's a reality. As much as you want to see Inter Miami play as a top team in the league, when they are down a man, they are in an even worse situation than what they already are when they get started.
Okay.
They were playing on the road, and yes, they did not get off to a good. I agree with that. But
let's not forget that, because that seemed to be forgotten about in the post game heat of the moment. It was more about the
game is not. The game is not 30 minutes. I mean, the game is 90 minutes.
And they were already losing after those 30 minutes, so there's no guarantee.
How many times in the season have you seen Inter Miami play bad for 30 minutes? A lot, right? A lot. Even in the games that they have been able to win. They are not a team full of consistency. They are not a team that will play at a high level for full 90 minutes. They might be able to play at a high level for 60 minutes. But they are not going to play at a high level for 90 minutes. They have ups and downs throughout a game. And so if you tell me they're playing bad in the first 30 minutes, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to lose the game. They still have 60 minutes. And they have shown they can play. They can carry some momentum with a goal playing with 11. But when they're playing with 10, and they create chances in the second half. And so, I mean, yes, they didn't play at a high level in the first 30 minutes, but that's not unusual for them. So that's why I look at the red card. And I get your point. But the red card, to me, was a game-changing moment.
Okay, I'm going to give you two things, and then we can move on from here. Two things. One is a quote from Christopher McVeigh, today, Wednesday. Quote, "You are not always on the same page as the ref, but we cannot be blaming them. We have got to go and do what we can do, and I will leave that to the refs." And that to me, end quote, that to me, Franco Panizo, is where Inter Miami's focus needs to be on. Yes, it was a terrible call. But focus on the first 30 minutes before then. Why were they not playing well before then? That's what needs to be addressed more, as much as referees need to be better in MLS. Because guess what? That's out of Inter Miami's control, whether the referees are good or not. What they can control is how well they play. And they did not play well before that sending off. And I echo Christopher McVeigh's sentiments. Phil Neville might be miffed. He might be upset at the referees. Guess what? Referees make bad decisions every season, every year, in every league. So even if the refs got better,
Franco,
there's not all of a sudden. Even if the referees got better, there's not all of a sudden going to be this magic wand that makes all bad decisions go away. And this is the second thing.
I bet you asked the same question. I bet you asked the same question to McVeigh on Sunday, and he gives you a different answer. I mean, honestly, come on. It's Wednesday.
Not necessarily. No, I disagree with that.
That is why the team made Mavica talk and not one of the experienced players.
No, see, I would disagree with you, because even Phil Neville was saying, he touched on the rust and the 3 weeks off, and there was this rust from the team. Mabica in his post-game press conference was like, yeah, you could probably attribute some of it to rust, but he didn't want to attribute it all to the rust. Like, he was hesitant to say, we're going to make that the reason why we didn't play well or why we didn't come out better in this one. So it's valid that Inter Miami had 3 weeks off. It's valid that they came out of the gates rusty. But why were they so rusty, whereas other teams, like Atlanta United in this one, were not as rusty? That's where the question lies. Why weren't they able to prepare during the 3 weeks as well as other teams like Atlanta United? And here's the other thing I'm going to throw at you guys. With the sending off, controversial or not, of Jean Mota, Inter Miami has tied the league lead in sending offs in 2022. They have 4.
Is it 10 red cards, 15 red cards? How many red cards?
It's 4 red cards, 4 ejections, 4 sending offs.
Steve, please help me here.
That's fine. They're combative in midfield.
4 red cards. Come on.
They have 4 sending offs. This is just a stat. This is not an opinion. This is a stat. 4 sending offs, tied for the league high in MLS. That does not include the 2 sending offs that they also had in the U.S. Open Cup. Robbie Robinson got one against Tormenta, and Damian Lowe got one, if my memory serves me correctly, against Miami FC. So in total, across all competitions, Inter Miami has had 6 sending offs this year. And they are not able to keep 11 men on the field as consistently as I'm sure they would like. And as I'm sure Inter Miami fans would like. And that's something that needs to be addressed. I asked Damian Lowe and Christopher McVeigh about that. Damian Lowe said it's something they're conscious of, but that it's just about walking a fine line. That very well could be the case. But guess what? Inter Miami, in all of last year, Jose, since you're chomping the bit over there, in all of last year, Inter Miami had 4 sending offs. In all of last year. We're not even at the halfway point of this year, and they already have 4 sending offs. Last year, they also finished tied for last in terms of yellow cards. I'm trying to pull up the number. I'm trying to remember if it's 80 or 81. But they finished last year with, hold on, I'm pulling it up here, 81 yellow cards. 81 yellow cards through 34 games. Through 15 games, how many yellow cards do you think Inter Miami has right now, Jose?
I don't know. You tell me.
But how many? Do you think it's a lot? Do you think it's a little?
60?
They have 40. So not even at halfway point of the season. And they're they are halfway to the league leading total from last year in terms of yellow cards. So this team needs to find a way to avoid getting all these cards.
Now they play the physical. That's good. I congratulate the team for that. 4 red cards? Come on, that's not a big deal. 4 red cards. And well, especially after the 4th
4
one,
red cards in 15. So 4 red cards in 15 games. 4 red cards in 15 games.
That is
okay.
a little, Franco.
Wow, that's a little. So if you play, you're almost playing 1/3 of your games down a man based on that, and that's a little to you. Okay, I mean that's surprising.
I will have to go back through the other 3 red cards.
I can give them to you. I can give them to you off the top of my head.
No, I need video. I need to watch the video.
Damian Lowe and Jaido Quinteros both got sent off against the New England Revolution. And the 4th one was
He doesn't even play Quinteros. I mean...
Well, they both got ejected in that game. The Inter Miami lost that game. And Breck Shea got ejected in a game earlier in the season against LAFC. Inter Miami lost that game as well.
Well, maybe they play a different style this year, you know? Sometimes it's a different team. And maybe they are a little bit more physical now. They try to stop play in the middle, and that's why they get more yellow cards. As last year, we're playing with 5 in the back, then you don't get as many yellow cards. I don't know. I don't think 4 red cards is a lot. Okay. I don't think that's it.
I would disagree with you wholeheartedly, and I'll use this last piece as a stat, and we can move on from this topic. Last year, Inter Miami was amongst the worst teams in 2021 in terms of red cards, and they had 4 last year. The only 2 teams finished worse than them in terms of red cards in 2021. CF Montreal was one of them with 5, and the league leader in red cards ended up being the MLS Cup champion, New York City FC, with 8. So if you don't think 4 is a lot, especially for 15 games... Then we can just agree to disagree.
It is not. You should watch the Mexican League or the Honduras League.
But we're not talking about the Mexican League. We're not talking about the Mexican League, Andrea.
We're talking about 15 games and 4 red cards. It's not that much. Let's be real. It's
Andrea,
not that much.
The last year's last place team, or the team that got the most red cards, had 8. The next highest was 5. 5 5-34 games. Inter Miami's at 4-15. Just do the math there, and to me, that's too much. That's too much. They need to find a way to keep the players on the field to give themselves a better chance at picking up points. Because right now they're in 10th place.
That much because you had 2 sending offs in one game.
You still had 2 sending offs in one game. You still had 2 sending offs in one game, Andrea.
That you were missing.
Andrea, I gave you 2 Open Cup games. Throw the Open Cup games. Throw the Open Cup games in there. Now we're talking about even more games. There's definitely something that has to be addressed there. They cannot be playing down a man this often, because it's going to, you guys said it, this is not a very good team. This is not a great team. So they need to keep their 11 players on the field as often as possible to give themselves the best chance as possible to try to pick up either a draw or a win. But anyway, let's leave it there. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. I want to hear Steve.
Yeah, no, let's do it. I need to use the restroom, man. I need to use the restroom very briefly.
Okay, this is the first bathroom break in Miami Total Futbol Radio history.
Yeah,
okay, all right. Well, Steve's gonna go to the bathroom while we continue on with the show, and then we'll pick up with Steve when he returns. Please wash your hands upon doing so. Now, let's switch gears. I think at this point with this game, there's one more thing that I think Inter Miami that we can touch on from this game, but it's an overarching thing for this season. And that is that Inter Miami's attack, even though there were improvements before the break, 100%, their attack through 15 games, is another stat, has 15 goals. 15 goals in 2022. That is second fewest in the Eastern Conference. That's, again, to me, something that they have to address and improve if they are going to make a real push for the playoffs. They need more goals than just 1 per game, which is what they're averaging. Jose, how do they get more goals out of this attack?
They need more players. They need new players. That's how they get.
By strikers instead of midfielders.
They need better players. I mean, I think
that's with 2 strikers.
No. I think the system is working fine right now. I think I think Gary Lassiter is playing okay. I think, but it is what it is with him. I mean, he's going to miss opportunities. He's not going to send every single cross. It's not going to be a good one. He's going to make bad decisions. And I think that the situation on the right wing, I mean, you have a player, but you're not playing him there, which is Robert Taylor. Things might be a little bit better with him there. But I guess the coaching staff is not ready to make that decision. And with Indiana there, you're going to get the same that you get on the left side with Ari. And then Campana can only score so many goals.
Exactly. He needs help. He needs help in that goal scoring. That's something Phil Neville did touch on weeks ago, that they need other players to contribute in that goal scoring department. So if this team's going to have any chance at making the playoffs, other players need to pick up the load. Other players need to help out, contribute. I agree with both of you.
They only have 2 strikers.
But I mean, strikers aren't the only ones that can score goals. You can get goals from other areas, be it set pieces, be it your wingers, be it your midfielders.
We have talked here about the problem they have in set pieces. And then if you ask Ariel Lassiter and whoever is playing on the other wing to get back and defend, also, you cannot be asking them to score so many goals. That's the truth.
The striker is not the problem. The striker is not the problem because the striker is actually the only one scoring goals right now. So Campana, if you're going to play the same tactical setup and you get 1 striker, then you look for goals from your striker, you're getting them. You're getting them. I mean, you cannot get any more goals than Campana.
But you're not getting points with them. You get one once a while. You win 1 game to not be last, but you're not getting anything else from them.
It's hard for me to see this team playing in the playoffs. I don't know.
Me
you
too.
You still don't think they're a playoff team?
They are very limited. If you compare them to other teams, like playing Minnesota this Saturday, and if you compare them to Minnesota has also 18 points in their conference in the West. They also have 18 points, but if you see Minnesota, you see a possibility of them getting to the playoffs because they play better. They have options. They're more entertaining. They're a better team. But with Inter Miami, you still don't see that. and it's hard because it's new players and a new system and all of that. But you don't see like the engine turning on this team to see that they could have especially in this time that they play so many games, that they could have consistency to win and get into the playoffs.
I want to hear
You
from El
simply
Primo.
don't see it.
El Primo's been quiet. He just returned from his quick break. So, Primo, we are talking about Inter Miami's need to improve in the goals department. I shared this stat, I think, while you were gone. 15 games played, 15 goals scored, averaging obviously to just 1 per game. I think that's something that clearly needs to be improved if they're going to make the playoffs. Your thoughts on how they can improve in the goal scoring department?
Well, the midfielders just got to weigh in, haven't they, and just try and score the goals. Campagna can't do it on his own. I guess Gonzalo's there, but his time is diminishing, isn't it? So you need like a Robert Taylor or one of those guys to really sort of come up and start contributing. But it's the holy grail, isn't it? That's what you want in a winning team.
Yeah, I think maybe the one guy is Bryce Duke, right? I mean, he's the one guy.
He's got a goal in him, I think.
Yeah, he has that capability of scoring, but then again, it's early in his career, so maybe he needs to take a step. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year or if it's going to happen next year, but he's definitely a guy that can score goals. And yeah, you look for options and listen, you don't have a lot. You didn't have a lot right now. So that's why I told you, I think you need more players. You need better players.
They did say on the broadcast, and Steve's going to chime in here a little bit. They did say on the broadcast on ESPN that Inter Miami's looking, that's what they said on the broadcast, they're looking to bring in 3 TAM level players. They did not say what positions, but that's what they said on the broadcast.
Explain what is a TAM level player for people that don't
targeted allocation money player. So it's not a designated player like the likes of Gonzalo Higuain, but it's like that next category of players. Essentially like a Gregory would be a TAM player. Lewis Morgan, when he was here, he was a TAM player. So Steve, what can you tell us about that? Because I know you've picked up some information, you've collected some info over the last few days with regards to that.
Yeah, well, no, just that they were trying to get two players in, but it was they weren't that confident of getting the deals done. I guess the market's a little bit strange, or it's difficult with teams in Europe finishing. I'm not sure of the players' names, but they're definitely trying to get a couple in. So
do you know positions? Do you have an idea of positions?
No, nothing yet. Have to update next week, I guess. But fresh faces is always good. It always reinvigorates the squad, but it's just trying to get the right ones in. But I think on the whole, their recruitment so far has been pretty decent. I think the players that have come in have made the team better, which is the whole point. Have they been amazing players? No, not yet, but I think they will have potential. So if they can get a couple more in, then it changes the squad dynamic even more, I guess.
Well, I imagine if we're looking to bring in players, they're going to, as TAM level players, I imagine they're going to look to bring in players that will help out the attack. I think you're looking at a central midfielder, maybe an attacking midfielder, and possibly a winger, because they still have not found a solution for that other wing spot. And even Ariel Lester, for as well as he's played and as much as he surprised me, even he's not producing at a great rate. I'm sure Phil Melville and his coaching staff would like him to produce at a higher rate in terms of goals and assists. And that's something that has plagued Inter Miami this season. They're not getting enough from their wingers. Not enough. Not consistently. That's something that has to be improved on if they're going to make a real push for the playoffs. Because if you're just going to rely on Leonardo Campana to score and then get the odd goal here or there from somebody else, I don't know if that's going to be enough for you. Now, quickly...
They are not a playoff team.
Okay, so you're saying right now
at least they are not.
Right, but we still have the summer window, which, again, we've seen in MLS countless times. You can bring in players in the summer window, and that can change your season just like that, and you can push towards the playoffs and then win MLS Cup. Let's move on, because there's a couple things. Listen, there's a couple things I want to talk about that happened over the break while we were away as a podcast. Robbie Robinson suffered an injury that rules him out 4 to 5 months. That's almost the length of the rest of the season. Mo Adams mutually agreed to part ways with the team he is signing or has signed with a Saudi Arabian club. Noah Allen was called up to the U.S. Under-20 men's national team for their U20 World Cup qualifiers in the CONCACAF U20 Championship. And there was also the beautiful game at Drive Pink Stadium that was held this past weekend. A bunch of big name players, current and former. I guess you're always a big name. I guess that you don't, the big name doesn't go away. But players that they're still active and players that are retired, and they played a high-scoring game that had as many field invasions, pitch invasions as they did goals, it seemed like. But let's quickly just jump into one each, starting with Primo with Mo Adams, because again, I think you have information on that. What can you tell us about Mo Adams' departure? He's no longer an Inter Miami player, a very short-lived tenure for him, but again, he's off to the Middle East.
Mo Adams following the Saudi money, just like the goal for Newcastle United and everyone else. Yeah, Mo Adams on $130,000 in Miami, paid 4 times that amount to go and play in Saudi Arabia, so they ripped up his contract. He clearly wanted to go. I think he upset people behind the scenes there into Miami. And yeah, off he goes to chase the money. So good deal for him, but a shame because I think he was quite a tidy little player as well, and I think he could have helped the squad out big time as the season went on. But yeah, he's gone chasing the money. You can't really blame him.
He's going to Al Shabaab in Saudi Arabia.
In rehab.
When I mentioned a few weeks ago, or on the last pod, which was a few weeks ago, that there were moves in the works, he was one of them. He's one of the moves that I had heard of that Inter Miami was working on finalizing, and he was ready to part ways. I mean, he was surplus to requirements here anyway. He wasn't getting that many minutes as of late anymore. Once Bryce Duke's emergence happened in that midfield, Mo Adams had started the year as a contributor, part-time starter, but once Bryce Duke broke into the fold, once Robert Taylor got involved, Mo Adams' place in the lineup really, or in the rotation really fell, or he fell out of favor. Now, let's go to Andrea, because you were at the beautiful game. We sat together. It was your birthday, so happy belated birthday. Here's a cheers to Andrea. Andrea, what did you think? Andrea, what did you think of that game, and what did Jose get you for your birthday? Just kidding.
No, I got plenty of gifts. I've done well on my birthday, so
nice.
Thank you guys for the wishes. I like the game. I like this concept. I usually follow when they play all those soccer aids or Real Madrid legends versus Liverpool legends. I really love it because, well, I grew up watching Roberto Carlos, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, Figo, Zidane, and all those players. So it was nice. It was nice to see them. It was nice to see Bam Bam. It was nice to see Kluivert, all those players, which are stars. So it was nice. It was nice watching them. It was nice for people because we saw a lot of people. We saw people from all parts of Miami that were going to the game. The only bad thing is the stadium needs to take control because it was a very tricky situation, and it was a very tricky situation in the end because they couldn't even give that trophy. Of course, it's a bogus trophy. It's a friendly game, but they couldn't even do that, the post-match, because people were invading the pitch. And you have Barcelona coming in July, so you need to fix that because even though Barcelona doesn't have Messi or all of those games, people are still going to jump and try to get a picture with them. So it really needs to be fixed. And other stuff that talking with the fans is the parking lot at the stadium. They need to fix that too. So I don't have any complaints about the game. It was awesome watching all those guys play. But the parking and the pitch invasions were unacceptable, in my opinion.
The parking situation and getting into the stadium was problematic. Yeah, very difficult to get into. And, all I'll say is if I was there in attendance, I had just returned from my trip to the Middle East and East Europe. If you had fun, good, because that's what the game was for. A lot of goals. You had Raul Alejandro, you had reggaeton artists out there. I know Steve doesn't know any of Steve was also there. Primo was also in attendance. He didn't know who any of the reggaeton artists were.
I was actually at the hotel in the afternoon as well, looking at the players. So spent speaking to the players, or at least trying to anyway.
Did you pick up any reggaeton?
You know what surprised me? Like Steve Nash and Chalo Chocinco knowing how to kick a ball.
I've seen Steve Nash play before. I've seen Steve Nash play before.
He was.
Yeah, he's been invited to different events, I think, with Stu Holden and different events over the years. So he can definitely play. Okay,
yeah,
switching gears. That. Jose, you get the privilege of talking about Robbie Robinson and the injury. Listen, we've talked about it at length over the last several pods, and I feel like we've pinated him quite a bit, just, been very critical. Obviously, you don't wish any injury on any player, but this is the latest. Never. This is the latest for him in his short career. I think the label of injury prone is adequate now. And I think even more, I already said that I thought it was, we were entering that conversation. I think the label of bust is also there for him. Do you agree with both of those labels for Robbie Robinson at this point in his career?
I would say this. I think, he needs to take his time. He needs to take his time to come back. It's obviously hard to process the thought that you're not going to play until next year.
He could come back. He could come back this year if Inter Miami makes the playoffs.
Yeah, he could, but maybe if he takes his time. Not that I'm being pessimistic, but I think by the time he's ready to come back, maybe the season is already done for the team. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic here, but if that's the case, I think he needs to take his time and maybe think things through during the off season and see what's not working for him in his routine. What needs to change for him coming into next year. And so obviously he's very young. He still has a lot of time, and this is an injury that he's going to recover from. This is not an ACL or something like that. He's going to come back from this, but I think sometimes players between a season, in between seasons, they decide to change things, whether the things they're eating or how they work out. Maybe that's the tricky part that needs to come next for Robbie Robinson, and in terms of what the team is going to be missing. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but I don't think the team is going to miss a lot with him not being available. I just don't see it. Maybe an effort guy in the second half. I think Indiana is that guy. When Robert Taylor finally starts as a right wing, then Indiana is the effort guy coming in the second half. And so that's about it with Robbie. I wish a full recovery and very soon, and hopefully he's going to take that next step as well into his career and find a way to be successful in the league.
Okay, then given how we dispersed those topics, the last one goes to me, and that's on Noah Allen. He started and played 90 minutes in the U.S.'s first game in this CONCACAF U20 Championship. The U.S. won 10-0. 10-0 against, I'm trying to remember who it was. I have to pull it up now because I don't want to say the wrong team, especially after a 10-0 defeat. I think it was St. Kitts and Nevis. 10-0 win for the under-20 U.S. men's national team to start in that competition. He did not play in the second game. They did a whole rotation.
They tied the second game.
Yeah, and they did a whole rotation.
Honduras is winning, by the way, and Honduras is going to win their 3 games. We're going to get through. But talking about the under-20, say that there's another first-team player that is going to play, and it's already in the octavos de final. I forgot how to say that in English.
Round of 16.
Round of 16. Yeah, round of 16. Edison Ascona is playing with the Dominican Republic. He's going to be traveling. I guess he's already there. He's going to be traveling.
But he was in training today. He was with the team today.
Yeah, I think they're playing next week. So I guess he's going to leave during the weekend or something like that before the games. He's going to leave because he is called up, and the team told us that they were going to wait to send him because they were playing until the round of 16. They don't play the group stage because they already went through qualifying.
Okay.
So he's going to be there, as are other 4 players from the Inter Miami 2 team. So at least Inter Miami fans have that to look forward to because we have another Dominican player that is going to be there. They're going to have a...
She stole your final thought. We're not even in the second segment. Okay, but look, let's leave it there because we've gone long on this first segment. We've gone very long, but it's fitting for an 100th episode. So let's take a quick break because we've been going at it for a bit. we will come back with our interview with DeAndre Yedlin, an Inter Miami starter and a U.S. men's national team player that figures to be part of the World Cup plan. So take a quick break, and we'll get to that after this.
What I said to him at the end is that now we're back on the treadmill, we're back on the grind. We've got 19 games left, 57 points to play for. We've achieved nothing yet. We got a little bit of plaudits after the Portland game for where we was, but now it's the grind, now it's the marathon, now it's where we've got to really knuckle down and pick up points on the road and get victories at home and show the qualities that we've been showing.
Okay, everyone, we promised a very special guest to help commemorate the 100th episode of Miami Total Futbol Radio, and he is here. Joining us today is one of the leaders of this Inter Miami team, a U.S. men's national team veteran with more than 70 caps and a World Cup under his belt. He's currently rocking green hair and is quite possibly the most fashionable member of this South Florida side. Who else could we be talking about but DeAndre Yedlin, of course. DeAndre, thank you so very much for joining us today on Miami Total Futbol Radio. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. We've been looking forward to having you on, and what better time than for our 100th episode. So before we get started, and I have to say, obviously today there was the announcement with Inter Miami of Cafe Bustelo. I'm not normally a coffee drinker, but today foolishly I drank 3 of those things, and I feel wired and a bit weird, to say the least. I can't believe you drink that on a regular basis. I mean, I know you don't drink 3, but
No, I do. I've found a good balance of how much to have now. I think on a game day I'll have a little bit more, but just day to day, just a cup in the morning gets me right for training and then for the rest of the day. So
how can you not drink coffee, Franco? How can you not drink coffee? I don't.
This is a little bit different in coffee, though. I swear. I don't know what they put in it, but it's
yeah. It's all, but it gives you that. Anyone that doesn't drink coffee, that's odd. Sorry.
I now understand why DeAndre runs up and down the flank when in games,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if he's drinking a couple of those things, man, like that thing must have you ready to go through a wall. Okay, well, DeAndre, let's jump into it because there's a few topics we want to talk about here. First off, I want to ask you how you're doing off the field. How has the transition been, not only with life back in the United States, but in South Florida with your growing family?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Just bought a house down here, so we're moved in, and thank you. Yeah, we're moved in, and getting stuff kind of all situated. Well, I say it's more my fiance. I'm just trying to help him whatever way I can. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult with the baby, but yeah, it's really nice. We're both very happy. My family gets to see me a lot more. Her family gets to see her a lot. So, yeah, we've adjusted very well and loving life down here.
Now, in terms of on the field, how have you felt during your adaptation back to MLS after spending the better part of a decade in Europe? It's a much different league than when you left, and now you've had a few months to really gauge it a bit more. Yeah. How have you found the level of play, and how what's different about MLS now than when you were with the Seattle Sounders before you headed for Europe?
I mean, I think just the level. I mean, you can tell the level, the understanding of the game, the fan interaction, the excitement around the league is just so much more than when I left. So it's great to see. It's great to be back in the league, and great to see the young guys that are coming up, and great to see what move make, and how they keep improving.
Is the pace of the game has it got faster as guys have got more athletic and stuff like that over the years?
I mean, I think as a whole, from a very foundational base, I think the game has, I think it's gotten actually more technical. I will say, even when I played in the MLS, it was always a very transitional league, very up and down and up and down and up and down. I think, when I say guys understanding the game a little bit more now, there's a little bit more patience. I mean, you still see a lot of that. There's I guess a little bit more flow to the game.
Sure.
Now, DeAndre, in terms of your role in this team, obviously you're the starting right back for Inter Miami, but you were captain this past weekend against Atlanta United, and I have seen, or at least my perception from the outside is that you have taken more of a leadership role than perhaps at any previous time or point in your career. From what we can pick up at training, the minutes that we're around, and just from videos on social media, I think even with the U.S. men's national team, I've seen you be a bit more, I think I've seen a more outspoken DeAndre Yedlin in the locker room, and DeAndre Yedlin who's more comfortable and willing to put his arm around some of the younger players, sharing experiences, helping guide them. Do you feel like more of a leader now? And is this just a natural progression given that you're at a more advanced stage in your career? Or is it something else that has made you take on this responsibility and made you flip that switch?
I mean, I do feel like more of a leader now. I think obviously age, is a part of that. But I also think, obviously me coming back from Europe and having, the type of career that I did that, a lot of these younger players look at, and they were obviously watching me when they were a little bit younger. I can tell that they look up to me for advice, that they look up to me, just for a little bit of guidance. And I think just for that fact, it's quite easy to become a leader to them.
DeAndre, is that something that comes natural for you? I mean, you've always been a very outgoing person, an outgoing player. You just look at your haircuts from back in the day when you were, coming fresh onto the scene. But has it come naturally for you, or is it something that's maybe been a bit of a challenge and you've had to adjust to because that's what the situation, that's what the team, that's what the role has called for?
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, I would say in my own way, I've always been a kind of leader, and doesn't necessarily mean on the pitch. Off as well. I'm a kind of guy, like, I grew up in a very open-minded family, so I tend to be able to be empathetic, I think, and sympathetic to a lot of people's situations, just no matter what it is. So I think for that reason, if a guy comes to me with a problem, and forget football, just in life, it's something that I can be open-minded to and try to put myself in his shoes and think about how I would deal with this situation. So I think from that sort of standpoint, I've always been a sort of leader, but I think now that I'm in a situation where, guys are looking for me to lead, that part comes pretty naturally.
And I guess on the field, one of the problems with this franchise has been it's been so inconsistent, so up and down, some great moments, some bad moments. I mean, how do you feel that you've done so far?
Personally, like my performances, or
just personally,
I think I've done all right. I think I can still give a lot more. I think the big thing with this team is, it's not really the sort of team where you can look to an individual and he's gonna all of a sudden, win you a whole game. It's the type of team where you're gonna need all 11 players, and if one person is off, then it's going to be quite tough for the rest of the 10 guys, even if they're completely on. That's just how our team is, and I wouldn't have any other way because I love working with this team. So I think personally, I still have some more to give, but there's also progression. This is like 8, I don't know how many new players, 17, 16, whatever it is, new players, still trying to learn how each one plays, still trying to learn each one's tendencies, even emotionally, how they get on the pitch. There's a lot of different variables that go into, mending together as a team. So we're all still, as weird as it may sound, still trying to figure that out, even though it seems like we've been together for a while now.
It takes time, I guess, doesn't it?
It takes a lot of time.
Even though you don't have much time today, you don't have much time in pro soccer, you just don't have that time, do you? But you need it.
Exactly.
Now, DeAndre, you touched on something today that we, at practice, not here on this interview, but you touched on something today that I thought was very interesting, and obviously we're diving into the little more soccer-specific football talk, but obviously you've been known since your early days as being a very marauding fullback that gets forward, that gets involved into the attack. And we saw that from you at the start of this season. You had a couple of assists, if I'm not mistaken, against Seattle and then against Atlanta. Yeah. Since then, you haven't had any assists. And in the last few games, especially against Atlanta, I didn't see you get forward with as much vigor as I have in the past. And you said something today about not necessarily making that run forward because you don't want to leave that space in behind, and there needs to be a healthy balance, of course. has this been something that you've taken on your own in terms of trying to find that balance? Is something from the coaching staff in terms of the tactics? How have you approached, the balance between, as a fullback, getting forward and obviously staying back and helping keep shape and stay organized as a team?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not like the coaches came up to me and said, "Hey, you need to stay back." But there was, especially against Atlanta, they during with their scouting, they noticed that when we would break, or when teams would break, their 3 attacking players would stay, or 4 attacking players would stay, and would be pretty lazy as far as getting back. But that means if you lose the ball, you know what I mean, then they're coming back and they have a very good attack, and they can hurt you bad if those players are left open. So I think especially for that Atlanta game, I was just trying to be very wary of that. We're away on the road. It's our first game back after break. Let's, try to get in at least to halftime tied, or, okay, if we're down by 1, we can get a goal back. Obviously the red card didn't help us. It's hard to play with 10 men against, especially against that team. Right. But that was sort of my thought process. As far as kind of overall, like an overview, I think just trying to be a little bit more of a leader from the back, let the guys in the front do what they do, and trying to pick my times. I mean, I've obviously been doing it for a bit now, but I'm still, especially with the different types of players that I can play with. If I'm playing with Ariella Emerson on my side, then I'm probably more likely going to let them go and stay back a little bit more. If I'm playing with Indy, Indy played this last game, but if I'm playing with Indy, then more than likely in most games, I'm going to try to get forward because I to come inside into the middle on his left foot. So it's just, again, it's learning different players, learning different situations. Depends if we're playing against 5, if we're playing against 4. But these are all things that I've picked up from my experience. Whereas before, I think it doesn't matter who we're playing against. I'd just be going. Right. And teams would see that and exploit it, whereas now I have to throw a little bit of, not make it so predictable, how I'm going to play or what I'm going to do.
Now, has that understanding come from your time in Europe, from just experience? Because like you said, back in the days, you were definitely going.
Yeah.
And often in the attacking third, which is not a bad thing, but obviously you also have to do the defensive part, and if you're bombarding forward all the time, then that can leave holes in behind. So is that something you've just gained through experience playing in Europe, playing with the U.S. men's national team for 70 plus games, or is it just you learning? What would you describe as the key element there?
I think it's just experience from different games. Getting exposed in certain situations. Obviously working with different styles of coaching. Just picking times when to go, when not to go. Obviously, I worked with, very attacking coaches, and I've worked with very defensive coaches. So just kind of trying to mend and mix all of those things that I've learned from those different coaches together to kind of be a more balanced fullback. I think the other thing you have to look at is we're not a team that has, 80% possession, a game. Right. So it's not always a great time to go forward. If you're a team that has that, then yes, maybe the fullbacks can go higher and stay higher because they're always on the ball. But, if we're splitting 50-50 or if we have less than 50, then you really got to pick and choose your times because you can get exposed bad if one, if you don't get the ball, and 2, even if you do get the ball and, the cross isn't right or somehow there's a counterattack, you can be exposed.
Now, before we switch gears to some U.S. men's national team and World Cup talk, I just wanted to quickly ask you, because I think some of the best soccer, some of the best football we've seen from this team, in my opinion, has been when you have gotten forward and you have given that overlapping run to Ariel or I pick out Ariel because I remember early on in the season that that was the combination that we saw down the right, and that really was a strength of Inter Miami in terms of the attack. Again, you had 2 assists early on, and this team's obviously a team that relies on its service from the outside, be it fullbacks, be it wingers, and Campana there in the box finishing it off. So, again, I asked you this earlier today in practice, but I will ask it again for the listeners who may not hear what you said after practice. Obviously, the attack is a team effort. The team has 15 goals in 15 games. That's averaging to 1 per game, obviously. Right. It's not just on you, but how much more do you think you can give in terms of the attack to help create more chances, to help create more goals, to give you guys a better chance of winning games and making the playoffs?
Yeah, I think I can give more. I think there are certain situations where I can, get forward that I haven't got forward, whether that's from tired legs or from, just not reading the situation right. There's obviously more opportunities to go forward. I think the other thing also though is that at the end of the day I'm a defender and one of the leaders on this team, so I think that in my mind is my first priority. I want to make sure that I'm defending and we're giving up as little goals as possible. Right. And if I can help the team do that, I have faith in the attacking players. But yes, of course, I think when I get forward, it creates a bit of a problem for teams just because, usually the fullback is getting left with a 2v1. It's definitely a thing that, like I said, with newer players, with different sorts of players, different systems sometimes, it's just about reading the situations. And I'm still, in my middle age of the career, still learning how to do that with this team.
Absolutely, and not just with crosses, because I remember early on in the year when you were bombarding forward, you were creating havoc, getting in the box, and creating penalty kick situations or fouls where the referee had to make a decision, and I thought that was definitely a plus.
In the beginning of the year as well, though, we were playing in 5.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it became a little bit easier. I mean, that, and again, that's just one of the that's one of the things I like.
You had more coverage. You had more coverage back there. Yeah.
And there's times where I've gone in and we haven't been punished, but if the opposing team was a little bit cleaner or a little bit, just a little bit more clinical, then we would have got punished. So I think sometimes that's things that a fan doesn't see, that a player, with a bit of experience sees, oh, I've gone here. Maybe they didn't score, but, there was a very clear opportunity that I saw that they could have got a very dangerous opportunity or whatever. Okay, maybe I need to figure out how I can be a bit more balanced.
Absolutely.
I guess moving forward in an alternate universe now, we'd be at the World Cup, but of course people didn't realise it's going to be 7 million degrees in the sun in Qatar right now. But moving forward for MLS players, how do you think it's gonna be going into the World Cup, coming off the back of the season, whereas I guess everyone else would be like mid-season? Is that going to be a factor, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you look at every other World Cup that's been played, and the European players are coming off the back of the season. So, people still perform. So I don't think it'll be too big of an issue. It's obviously, not ideal, but it's as a professional, you just have to adapt to certain things, and so we're gonna have to do.
And I was in Cincinnati covering the team, and you've got you're like one of the elder statesmen in that team, aren't you? Because you've got some good young Tim, Brenner, Aronson. How's the feeling in the camp, and how does it sort of compare to maybe 2014 the last time with the World Cup?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think everybody within this group is, bar me and a couple other guys, are pretty much around the same age. And not only that, they've all played together for quite a long time. They're all in the youth national team system together. So they have a really good understanding of each other. And me and the quote-unquote older guys, we all have great relationships with all of the younger guys on the team. Like Tim is in my house right now. Tim's here right now. Hello, Tim. Yeah, so we all have a great relationship. We're all very close. I think it's a really great group. I think as far like chemistry wise, I don't know that I've been with a better group that just understands each other so well. From the staff all the way through to the players. It's a really great group.
I was gonna just say, what are your overall thoughts on the group that you guys have drawn? Obviously, you've got Wales, you've got England, you've got Iran. I know you're focused on Inter Miami, and the World Cup's still a few months away. But just if you could shed a little bit of light of what your thoughts are on the group, given that it's a World Cup year and people are interested, obviously, in the U.S. national team return to a World Cup after 8 long years. Yeah, no,
it's a great group, and great by great I mean very good teams within it. I think you look at every team and they all have their their strengths, they all have their weaknesses, obviously. I think a lot of people obviously look at England and say, well, this is the big one, but there's Wales and Iran are both very good teams as well. So I hope people aren't overlooking them, because that's going to be an incredible challenge, as well as England. But we're excited for the challenge. Like, the challenge is what you want in a World Cup. You know what I mean? That's everything. So everybody in the group is excited.
And if you do well against England, you're going to upset not only the coach but also the owner of the football club. I mean, you can't win, right?
Yeah, we hope so.
How important, DeAndre, is it? Obviously, you start with Wales. How important is it to get off to a winning start? You know very well how crucial that proved in 2014, when the team beat Ghana in that opener. That takes away some pressure. You don't go into that second game saying, okay, we have to win here because otherwise we're going to probably either be eliminated or have our backs against the wall in that third game. So how important is it to get off to a winning start? Obviously, the opposition will be challenging, but for you guys, how important will it be to win that first game?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, the first win is massive. Like you said, it takes a bit of pressure off. And I think, there's certain groups that don't respond well under pressure. There's certain groups that do. I think, our group is a group that does respond pretty well under pressure. So I know, if the group does get into a situation where our backs are against the wall, I think, we'll come out of it fine. But, at the end of the day, coming out with the first one is massive. I think, you can go into that second game with a lot of confidence and you just do your thing.
To begin closing out, DeAndre, and I really enjoy sharing this anecdote, and for listeners that might not know this might be the first time they hear this. I covered the U.S. men's national team's World Cup availability or pre-World Cup availability in New York City in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in the Marriott, definitely in Times Square. Maybe I got the hotel wrong, but I think it was in the Marriott in Times Square. And there were round tables for all the players there. And you were fairly new, the beginning of your career. And I remember seeing your table and you were sitting all by yourself because everybody else was talking to Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Tim Howard. And I sat down with you and we talked for a little bit. And obviously you then went on and had a very good World Cup.
Yeah.
How have you changed since then? It's been 8 years. You've played in Europe. You've gotten a lot more experience with the national team on the international level. What is the DeAndre Yedlin of today like compared to the DeAndre Yedlin of 2014?
I think just a lot more confident, a lot more comfortable with my abilities and myself. And then I think the most important thing is, I've become a father, which, it definitely translates onto the pitch. I think, as far as going out, like I remember when I was young, I'd go out there and be nervous before games. I think it's quite normal. But now, being a father, it's completely taken those butterflies away. Just because there's so much more important things, than football. I mean, it sounds kind of horrible to say, but when you look at your daughter, every morning and she's smiling at you, or after bad training, you come home, your daughter is smiling at you and asking you to hold her, you just realize, what is truly important. It allows me to go out just with a really free mind and just have fun with it, just really have fun with what I'm doing. And I feel blessed to be able to, play this sport and, do something I can have so much fun with and make a living doing it. It just really changed my perspective. Yeah. Changed my perspective on a ton.
You have more tattoos now, right?
Yeah, and more tattoos. Yeah.
Do you know how many tattoos you have, or have you lost count?
I don't. I just tell everybody one because they've all kind of formed into one tattoo.
They all blend together. Nice. Okay, exactly. Well, one last one on the U.S. men's national team, because there are quite a few options at fullback. This team is, back in the day, maybe there weren't that many, but now there seems to be a plethora of options for Greg Berhalter. You've got Serginho Dest, Reggie Cannon, Joe Scaley, yourself. How do you view, obviously the competition's healthy, but obviously you want to be part of that World Cup. What do you think you have to do to stake a claim for one of those roster spots? The good thing is FIFA just announced that instead of 23 players on the roster, it'll be 26. That leaves more space for more players. So, but what do you think you have to do in order to get on that plane to Qatar?
I think just continue what I've been doing. Keep my form up with Miami. Continue to lead, continue to practice my leadership skills. Obviously, continue to on the field, and that's really it. I don't like to think too much into it about I need to do this, I need to do that. That's when you start overthinking things. It's just just keep doing what I've been doing. It's gotten me to this spot, and hopefully, it will take me on the plane to Qatar.
Awesome. Then, just to close out, we will do a thing that we call Tiki Taka here on Miami Total Futbol Radio. We will ask you a simple question. All you have to do is give us 1 or 2 word response. Starting with, who is the funniest teammate on Inter Miami currently?
Funniest teammate. I'd have to say Chris McVeigh.
Yeah? Okay. That's a dark horse.
Hilarious.
That's a dark horse, yeah?
He's hilarious. He's hilarious.
Is it jokes? Is it actions? Is it just how he carries himself?
He's one of those people that is funny without knowing that he's being funny. So he's not trying to be funny, but he's just some of the stuff he does is hilarious.
Okay,
If there was a dinner party round Shea Yedlin, 3 dream guests, man, dead or alive, it doesn't matter, anyone at all.
Dream guest. Let me think. Buddha.
Okay.
Buddha. Martin Luther King. And LeBron James.
Nice. We've had a few LeBrons from other players on the team. That's an interesting table. That's a lot of wisdom at that table.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom. I'm all about wisdom.
Okay. Best dressed on the team. You can say yourself if you want. You've definitely been mentioned a few times.
You already know the answer to that. You already know the answer. Yeah, I don't have the answer to that.
Nice. Okay. Well, it's DeAndre Yedlin then. Sleepiest teammate that you have. Obviously, you guys go on trips. You know who falls asleep on the plane quite a bit. Who doesn't? Who you guys are taking videos of? Yeah.
Oh man. Wow, I don't know. Sleepiest teammate.
Is it you? Do you take a lot of naps on the plane?
No, I'm not a sleepy person.
So that Cafe Bustelo keeps you awake.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Sleepiest team. Wow, I don't know actually. I don't really walk around on the plane, so it's hard for me to see who's actually like sleeping. Okay. I mean, I've been next to Ariel where he's sleeping. I've been next to Chris McVeigh where he's sleeping.
Okay.
But I don't know who the sleepiest is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Earliest football memory, your earliest soccer memory that you have?
Probably my grandfather and uncle coaching me with my, I think it was under 4 team.
Okay. Wow. That's a memory. That's some memory right there.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Then the last one. If you were not playing professional soccer, if you're not playing professional football, DeAndre Yedlin would be doing
designing clothes.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah,
and you are doing that.
You're doing that anyway.
And I am doing that. Just trying to kind of get a nice segue into my career after football.
Nice. And I was going to ask you that to close out this interview, to plug your brand or share what you want about the brand. Obviously, you've been teasing little things here and there. You've had the design in the back of your hair as part of your haircut. You were wearing some socks today with the brand's name. What I don't want you to give away all the secrets unless you're ready to do so, but what can you tell the listeners that may not be familiar with what you're doing about your brand that it seems like you're getting ready to launch somewhat soon?
Yeah, so the brand is called Mount Avery. The name Avery is a name that both me and my fiance really loved, and so basically, we want to have 3 kids, and we've always said the third. We've always said the third kid, boy or girl, would be named Avery. So we both really love that name. So that's where the Avery part comes from. The mountain part comes. It's like a little bit of ties to the Northwest. It's also kind of because I've really been on my kind of wisdom, spiritual type stuff for the last 2 years. Just a tie to life. I think mountain is a great. What's the word? Explainer. It explains life very well. Just the ups and the downs of life. Mountain is not just one incline and then one decline. There's a lot of different inclines and declines within the mountain,
right?
That we all go through, and I think that explains life very well. So we kind of put the two together, designed or made the name Mount Avery. The logo is kind of what's been in the back of my head, the M and the that's the logo. As far as the type of clothing, I don't really like to stay in a certain lane, so I'm not gonna pinpoint it to any certain type of, I'll call it genre of clothing. It will be everything. I'm a kind of guy that likes to kind of, cross the lines and just basically try everything. So we'll be doing everything.
Nice.
Yeah. So
is there a timeline? Is it within the next few months? After
yeah,
the
I
World
think
Cup?
so.
Before the World Cup?
Yeah, definitely before the World Cup.
Okay.
Definitely before the World Cup, you'll see some stuff and getting some stuff out to guys now. So, they should be wearing it around soon. I hope.
Okay, cool. Well, Miami Total
yeah.
Football Radio listeners, be on the lookout for that gear, be it on Inter Miami players or U.S. men's national team players or DeAndre himself. DeAndre, thank you so very much for joining us. We really, really enjoyed the interview. Good luck this weekend against Minnesota United and the rest of the season. We will talk to you again very, very soon, okay?
All righty, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
All right, DeAndre. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Alright guys, we hope you enjoyed that interview with DeAndre Yedlin, but it's Q&A time, and for the sake of time, we're going to just jump right into it. Only going to tackle a few questions. By the way, we were going to do a jersey giveaway for the 100th episode to one of you devout listeners, but no one sent in a video saying Miami Total Futbol Radio. And listen, if you're intimidated about rolling your R's, we're not judging you based off of your rolling of R's. All you have to do to be in it is just submit a video saying you listen to Miami Total Futbol Radio. And then that just goes into, I was going to do a drawing, and whoever was picked out of there randomly would win the jersey of their size. Maybe we can do that for next week. So if you're listening to the pod now, and you want to be in a drawing for a jersey, as a thank you to the listeners for sticking with us through 100 episodes, 2 years of Miami Total Futbol Radio podcast, then just send in a video to us on Twitter, either at Franco Panizo or at MIA Total Futbol, just saying that you are a listener of Miami Total Futbol Radio. You don't have to roll your R's if you don't want to. You can just say radio. But let's jump into the Q&A session, and we'll start with Don Cafecito. Congrats on the 100th episode. Do you plan on making another 100? With Robinson being injured again, can we officially call him a bust? Help me pick my next Peruvian meal, jalea mixta or lomo saltado. Wow. Okay, so Jose, you tackled the Robbie Robinson topic earlier. I think you can call him a bust. As unfortunate it is that he's injured, I don't think he's shown enough even before the injury to say that he's been anything but a bust. And obviously with the injury issues on top of it, yeah, it hasn't been a great 3 seasons for Robbie Robinson at the start of his pro career. If I have to pick a Peruvian meal, me personally, I would say lomo saltado, but both are very good, so just get both. Guys, do you want to make another 100 episodes? I have the energy to do another 100. I don't know if you guys do.
Any sponsors want to join us on this wonderful journey to 200, then let us know.
That's a goal.
Let us know.
That's a goal. Let's set that goal, Steve. Primo. All right, we're setting a goal. We're going to have a sponsor by the 200th episode. Okay.
Yes.
Next question. The classic old subject. Has Phil's seat cooled down now that the team has an identity and are at least competing? Also, if you could say who you guys think has been the most underwhelming player this season. Congrats on the 100th episode also. All right, so we're going to go around the table, starting with Primo. Who has been the most underwhelming player this season for Inter Miami, in your opinion?
Well, I guess Robbie Robinson, I guess you would say. Yeah, didn't go into time for him, right? Why are you laughing? What's funny about
I'm
it?
laughing because Jose's laughing. The way he cackled there just randomly out of nowhere. Either that or the Pilsen is getting to me. One of the two. Okay, Robbie Robinson. Your vote's for Robbie Robinson. Andrea.
I agree. It has to be Robbie Robinson.
Okay, Jose.
And that's why I was laughing, because I knew everybody was thinking the same thing. Robbie Robinson.
Wow. So
and the guy's injured, but yes.
Yeah, let's hope he gets better.
We send him the best wishes.
I'm once again on my own. Maybe they should start calling me Island Jose, because I'm on my own on this one. I don't think it's Robbie Robinson. I think he's been disappointing and underwhelming, but I don't think he's been the most underwhelming. I would say Gonzalo Higuain. You could say, he was already slowing down, this and that, but the numbers he's put up this year, they're nowhere near what I thought he would have. I thought he would have done a bit more. So, especially as a DP, especially given that last year he did perform in spurts. He's essentially now a substitute, a role player, and you can take this past weekend for example. he didn't even get on the field. Now, obviously, there was a red card that impacted the whole game and conditioned the game, but clearly he's fallen far from where he was and far from where I expected him to be. So the most underwhelming player for me to this point in 2022, Gonzalo Higuain. Last question. Sal Paradise. Any credible rumors as to who the 3 TAM level players mentioned by John Champion in the Atlanta game are? I don't have any names to share. I don't believe anybody else on the pod does as of right now. Okay.
No names. We'll do some digging. We'll find out for sure.
All right. It's time to share some news. I'm going to drop a little bomb here. A little nugget. It's not a bomb. It's a nugget. Jose, Andrea, and I have been planning for some time to do a Miami Total Futbol Radio Spanish edition podcast. We're trying to figure out how regularly we can do it, but we're going to start with once a month beginning in June. So if you prefer to listen in Spanish, or you have friends that maybe don't speak English as well as they do Spanish, and they're looking for someone to or somewhere to listen to Miami Total Futbol Radio, or listen to a podcast on Inter Miami, well, Miami Total Futbol Radio will have you covered. I am sorry that el personaje, the person, the character that he is, he will not be part of the Spanish venture unless he starts taking Rosetta Stone and working on his Spanish. But we do plan to have that. That is some news we can share with you guys. We're planning to do...
Come on, Duolingo, Steve, or something like that.
Eres a sponsor.
Me hablo un poquitito de español. Solamente un poco.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
That was great.
I think if he drinks a little bit, he gets a little loose, and then, he lets himself go a little bit. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Pure Spanish at 4 a.m. Yeah.
Make sure, Franco, you make a soundbite out of those 3 words that you just put it all over on
words he said. I have no idea what 3 words he said. But look, I like the effort. But yes, we are, and I'm being so very serious now. We are looking to do, and we will do a Spanish version of Miami Total Futbol Radio at least once a month. All right, that does it for... Well, actually, I didn't share my overall thoughts and my... look, when I started this podcast a couple of years ago, when it was just an idea, I hoped it would be a long-term thing, but it was my first venture, my first time stepping into the podcasting world, so I didn't really know. I've learned on the fly, and I've been very, very appreciative of you listeners for obviously tuning in from 50 plus countries. Never expected that ever in my wildest dreams. Also for engaging with us on Twitter, submitting your questions on a weekly basis, and of course for just being along for the ride that has been Inter Miami and just life in general. I've shared very good moments like landing the job with the Sun Sentinel here on this podcast. I've also shared some very sad moments like losing my father. So you guys have been a big part of my life for the past 2 years. And I know a lot of you I haven't met face to face. Some of you I have, but a lot of you I have not. But doing this and creating this little community, this very tiny Miami Total Futbol Radio community, that has been a big part of my life for the last 2 years. So I thank you listeners, as well as my 3 co-hosts and Eric Krakauer, who no longer is a co-host but is off doing big things with Charlotte FC's broadcast team. I thank you all for accompanying me on this journey, and let's keep it going, let's keep it rolling, because I really enjoyed conversing, debating, talking Inter Miami with these 3, as well as with you guys, and obviously sharing the opinions that we have on Inter Miami, because by and large, if we're being honest, not many places you can go to get this type of dialogue. You don't see it on TV. You don't get it on radio. Where can you get this level of discussion? Well, Miami Total Futbol Radio is one of those places. That was my idea behind it all, just to give fans that are hardcore into Inter Miami a place where they can go and dive into the meat and potatoes of the team, just what's going on, the latest news, and just have a discussion, just like you do with any other sports. You turn on ESPN, you see all the other sports out there being talked about, every little thing, every transaction, this player, this, just having that day-to-day discussion and dialogue that's largely missing from not only Inter Miami, not just MLS, just soccer in general, football in general in this country. So hopefully we're doing a good job, and we will continue to try to implement more and more ideas as time goes on. And again, a big thank you to all you listeners for tuning in on this 100th episode. We've gone long. I think we've broken the record for longest Miami Total Futbol Radio podcast, but obviously with very good reason. So for Jose Armando, For Andrea Yanez, for Steve Brenner, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Futbol Radio.